Before we start the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Remember how we met? Do you remember? He remembered the cooling summer, the lazy evenings, the orange sunsets, and the girl who sat down with him one day and talked about smells. Do you know what summer smells like? He stared at her stunned. It's weird. Well, grass, flowers, vacation. The girl answered and laughed, obviously pleased that he could not solve the riddle. He would always remember Nyuta just like that, in a summer-flowered sundress, with frayed knees and a disheveled blonde plait. What does cinnamon smell like? Do you know? She asked me gamely. Slava laughed. She's strange, this girl, but how cute. He tried to guess. Apple pie? No, she didn't. Cocoa smells like New Year's Eve. Vanilla smells like warmth and cinnamon. She frowned intently, trying to find the exact words. Cinnamon probably smells like everything at once, and warm and festive and so cozy. Does it smell like home? He suggested. Yes, that's right, home. Nyuta's freckled face brightened. Home. Do you remember your home? She shrugged and stared at her feet. An ant was crawling on the pavement, and Nyuta picked it up with a blade of grass. Yes, he remembered everything in the smallest detail, as if it had only been yesterday. The summer sunset, the laboring ant, and the 2 orphans on the porch of the orphanage. It's just like yesterday. As if those 10 years had never happened, Slava walked along the street lit up and strewn with autumnal gold. The air was cool, and it seemed that someone in the heavenly chancellery had decided that the city needed rain. The boy quickened his pace, hoping to stay dry or at least not get too wet. He was already anticipating the moment when he would step out of the October chill and straight into Nyuta's warm kingdom. The most unimaginable, most delicious smells always hover there. And Nyuta will pour him scalding hot chocolate. And that would be the best experience of the day. It was quiet in the bakery. Nyuta had even turned off the usual soft music, miracles. Slava looked for his friend. She was not at the counter. There she was. She sat down at a table and chatted with one of the customers. Good evening, he said in a loud voice. The girl turned around. Glory, and I thought you weren't coming in. Chocolate? He nodded. The visitor got up too. Now Slava got a good look at him. I don't die tall. About 25, most likely. Well, I'm going, Nyuta. He smiled at the girl. See you tomorrow, right? On his way out, he measured Slava with an unkind look. Nyuta put a cup of fragrant drink with snow-white foam of whipped cream and appetizing chocolate chips on the counter. It's your favorite, she invited her friend. Drink it while it's hot. He walked reluctantly to the counter. Am I interrupting something, Nyuta? The question sounded so tentative and quiet that she couldn't help smiling. No, of course not. I'm at work. I think this guy's mad at me for intruding. Nyuta smiled even wider, and Slava thought for the umpteenth time how much prettier she had looked since their first meeting. She had been a girl then, unkempt, with her pigtails, sharp knees, freckles, and silly questions about cinnamon. Now there was an exciting, tantalizing girl in front of him. The pigtails had turned into a gorgeous blonde mane. The freckles were gone like they'd never existed. Teenage angularity gave way to grace. She was a beauty. He was even surprised when he realized that Nyuta did not aspire to be a model or an actress. He had always thought that beautiful girls regarded their own attractiveness as capital, requiring a successful investment. Nyuta chose to go to culinary school, and when she graduated, she got a job here in a pastry shop. It's just my thing, she explained all at once and forever. This guy, said Nyuta, is an acquaintance of mine. His name is Igor, and he likes me. Why am I not surprised? Smirked Slava. And you like him? I like him too, she admitted with a sigh. Can you imagine, he invites me to go abroad. He says he has his own cafe somewhere in Italy. I forget where. He thinks I have a talent for confectionery, and there I will become a millionaire. Something was wrong. Slava himself did not understand what it was, but Nyuta's voice, which until a second ago had been perceived as pleasant, unobtrusive music, as if this music was interrupted by some important and unpleasant message. Cafe in Italy? He took his cup away from him. The chocolate somehow became tasteless. And what has your Igor lost in our latitudes? Nyuta shrugged her shoulders. He came to visit his mother. He's going back soon, so I have to decide whether to go with him or not. He didn't give me much time to think it over. What do you say, Slav? Shall I agree? He frowned at the girl. Don't decide anything for 3 days. I'll run it through my channels. Always you so. She laughed and waved a towel at the guy. What makes you so suspicious, eh? Or, she squinted slyly, and that made her eyes look like a cat's. Is it jealousy? Thanks for the chocolate, Slava said softly, and went out into the drizzling rain. Jealousy had nothing to do with it. Slava had long ago accustomed himself to the idea that Nyuta was not for him. She was a princess, and she had the talent. Here he was in complete agreement with this unknown person from Italy, of a pastry chef. She needed another guy, smart, handsome, and with money to buy her a pastry shop and let her create delicious things for her own pleasure. What's he like? He's just an ordinary guy, no brains, no looks, and a security guard's salary wasn't exactly conducive to buying establishments. I'd rather let things stay the way they are. Nyuta, for some reason, is attached to him like an older brother. That's good. At least he sees her often. He can drop in on her at work for a hot drink and a chat, and sometimes they would go to the movies together and just go for a walk. And on February 23rd, he invariably got a big box of sweets from Nyuta. She baked his favorite oatmeal cookies, added some chocolate eclairs, and never forgot the donuts with multicolored glaze. For the former orphanage boy, it was a veritable treasure chest. As he was leaving the cafe, Slava almost bumped into Nyuta's Italian. Do you have a smoke? The boy asked him, as if nothing had happened. I don't smoke, Slava muttered, trying to get around the stranger, but he stood right in front of him, blocking the way. How long have you known her? The Italian nodded at the door of the confectionery, and Nyuta. His gaze was interested, too interested for idle curiosity. Slava knew that expression in his eyes. He had often seen it in shoplifters when they were caught red-handed. They tried hard to look like crystal honest people, but it didn't work. They gave away that intense look that read, I am not trying you. How long have you two known each other? Why? The Italian grinned. No reason. Well, goodbye, friend. He ran off the porch into the rain and quickly walked to the underpass. Slava, a few meters back, ducked into the underpass after him. The Italian was clearly in a hurry. Now and then he glanced at his watch and added to his step. So he's arranged a meeting with someone, thought Slava. The stores are already closed. Not counting the convenience stores, but there's no point in rushing there either. That leaves the bars and nightclubs, but they're open till morning too, and the guy checks the time. Meeting. Someone is waiting for him, and he doesn't want to be late. He wasn't wrong. Exiting the crosswalk, the Italian headed into the alleyway where the bar was located. Slava knew the place. He had worked there once when he first got a job as a security guard. At first, it seemed like a don't beat a man when he's down job. You just have to walk round the room and make sure that nobody gets rowdy, and the salary was promised as surprisingly serious. By the way, they were not deceived, but after working there for a month, Slava quit his job and has never regretted it. This bar attracted aggressive drunks like a magnet's needle. A young security guard had to break up to 8 fights a night, and one gets bored quickly, even if one is naturally greedy for adrenaline. Slava was not greedy. The bar continued to operate, but for a long time it had enjoyed almost the worst reputation in the city. It absolutely deserved it. The Italian looked around on the threshold and then swung open the heavy wooden door. Slava waited a minute and then entered after him. A familiar guard was on duty at the entrance. Nyuta had worked here for a long time and was distinguished by a truly Buddhist calmness. Constant conflicts in no way disturbed his mental equilibrium, and he was the only one who was in no hurry to escape from this cursed place. Slav? He cheered noisily. Slava, instead of answering, put his finger to his lips. Now came such a long man in a black jacket, he said quietly. Didn't you see where he sat down? You hurting him? Nyuta guessed instantly. He's at the end of the hall behind the screen. The black open work one. That's where couples usually stay, but not today. There's a table right behind it. You sit there, you can hear everything you need to hear. They won't see you. Thanks, man. What can I get you? The waitress looked tired, and Slava knew why. The turnover in this place was unbelievable, which meant that her shiftmate had quit, and the girl was already working her second, if not third, shift. Water, please. What else? She was probably hoping for a tip. More, Slava smiled. Black coffee. The girl left. Muffled voices came from behind the screen. Slava listened attentively. Their speech was quite understandable. He took his cell phone out of his pocket and pressed the recorder button. Well, is it breaking? The man asked from behind the screen. Everybody agrees with me. I'll finish it today, you'll see. The Italian answered. Slava recognized him by his lazy, half-asleep intonation. And where else could she go, a fool in an orphanage? She had no one to count on, and all women are greedy for money. You have a good idea. His interlocutor praised him. You work for orphans. That's right. You bet I do. Who needs them? They won't even look for them. How many do you have already? 4 on the spot. 2 Stas is working, and your pastry chef. Together that makes 7. It better be soon. Mario's in a hurry. You know, staff turnover. The voice chuckled. How long does the average stay at Mario's? The Italian asked quietly. 6 months or so. And after that, who OD'd, who got stabbed, and who? What's that to you? We've sent the broads and raised dough, and the rest, he stressed the word, the rest, is none of our business. Shall we get a beer? Order 1. Suddenly Slava realized that his own order had long been standing in front of him. He hadn't noticed. He took a greedy sip of water. The icy cold made his teeth ache immediately. Yurka, who appeared in the hall, threw a questioning glance at his friend. Somehow it helped to concentrate, approach him. After thinking for a few seconds, Slava gave up the idea. The guards see and hear a lot, so perhaps Yurka is aware of the matter. But he thinks that it does not concern him. Slava opened a list of contacts. Athos was the first to pop up under the letter A. The orphanage nickname stuck to Valerka Fedosaev for the rest of his life, but it was a nickname he could be proud of. His nickname was Athos for principled, incorruptible honesty. Athos had been a police officer for 4 years. Come here. Looks like slave traders here. Slava typed the message without looking and added the address of the bar. He knew Athos would be here in half an hour. Even a text message would pull him out of a deep sleep. The conversation behind the screen resumed. It's a pity, the Italian said grudgingly. I know they're fools myself. I don't force anyone. But sometimes it's a pity. Just when I think what they're doing to them, what awaits them there. Don't think about it, advised the interlocutor seriously. Do you want to live a good life? You want to have money and not be tense. You do, I know. If you didn't want to, you could go to the factory to work 8 hours a day or whatever your profession is. Sales consultant. Don't think about it, so you don't have to work as a sales assistant for 2 copper pennies. Finish your beer and let's go. In place was the message from Athos. Slava left the money on the table and quickly walked out. 2 men are coming, he said to his buddy. There's nobody in the bar but them, you can't go wrong. I'll give you a tape of their conversation later, but for now hold on to it. Think of something. Athos raised his eyebrows. How did you do all that? Later. Slava waved at the cab that had pulled up. We had to hurry. The candy store, he knew it, was already closed. So Nyuta was already home. How long had he been here? An hour? An hour and a half? Just hurry up. I'll charge you for the speed, he tossed at the cab driver. Already from the window of the departing car, he saw Athos stop the Italian and some overgrown, unkempt man with him. Traffic, looks like an accident, the cab driver grumbled annoyingly. They hadn't moved for 10 minutes. I'm in a hurry, said Slava in despair. Maybe he could go in the backyard. He was aware of the absurdity of his suggestion. They were in the midst of the traffic. They could not move an inch. No backyards. The cab driver shook his hands guiltily. I don't think so, there's no way around it. We'll just end up on the same avenue anyway, he said. There are no traffic jams in the subway. I wish I could get there quicker. Subway. Slava turned his head, hoping to find a big burning M. Here it is. Here you go. He handed the driver a few bills. Keep the change. The train habitually rocked as if a giant cradle in which adults, tired people, and not children were dozing. It always calmed Slava down, but now it pissed him off. The necessary station sounded from the loudspeakers. The doors slid open and only then Slava understood that he had been mistaken. He made a big mistake and came to the wrong place. Nyuta had moved a couple of months ago and now lived closer to the center. He had to hurry back. Hurry up. Faster still. Why are we barely making it? He almost fell out of the subway door and pushing passers-by away ran. Netkin's house was very close, but something told him he had to hurry. Phone endlessly vibrating. Probably it was Athos was trying to reach him, but now it did not matter. He would call back. He would definitely call back, but later, when he sees Nyuta. When he was sure she was all right, Slava stopped only a meter away from her entrance. He leaned against a stunted birch tree, which had miraculously survived in the vicinity of the roadway. The entryway door was lit by a lantern. It creaked open, and the voices of those who came out could be heard. "You're here now, you bastard," Slava hissed. Nyuta came out after the Italian. In her hands she held a checked duffel bag. The boy dragged her suitcase on wheels behind him. "Nyuta." Slava ran up to her, ignoring the Italian. "Where are you going, Slava? What is it?" The girl looked at him bewildered, as if seeing him for the first time. Slava knew the reason for her astonishment. He rushed over like a scalded man, sweat streaming down his face. His breath is heavy. "Where are you going?" he repeated. Nyuta glanced at her companion. "I have left my work. You know, I worked without registration, and Igor offered me to stay at his place for the time being. Well, until the visa, the documents. I'll call you." "I see." He snatched the bag from her. The Italian? Slava didn't see it, he felt it, tensed up, as if preparing for a fight. "Nyuta, you can't go. I've got it all figured out. They are slave traders, they send the girls abroad, and they have 6 months to live, tops." The girl's eyes widened, her mouth fell open. She pressed a hand to her lips. "What? He's drunk." Igor laughed. "Or he's on drugs. Look at him, and yet, he doesn't look like a man at all. He's delirious. Let's go already." Slava firmly squeezed her wrist. "You are not going. I won't let you go." Nyuta's gaze flicked from Igor to Slava and back again. "Slavic, this just can't be." "Are you coming or not?" shouted the Italian and immediately squeezed his eyes shut. An alarming red-blue color of flashing lights struck him. "Hands," barked Athos. Nyuta gasped for air. "Come," Slava picked up her suitcase. "I'll walk you home. Come on, Nudik." The scent of perfume and cinnamon was still wafting through her small apartment. Slava went through the kitchen cupboards and found a bottle of valerian drops. He poured them into a glass of water. "Come on," he said. "Now you calm down. Then go to sleep." Nyuta nodded slowly, and just as slowly, lethargically sipped. "Just don't go out tonight, Slav?" she asked. "I am afraid of something." He helped her to lie down on the sofa, and wrapped the plait around her. "I will not go, and now you need to sleep. And where are you going to lie down?" The girl was worried. "Nonsense. I'll sleep in the chair." "No." She shifted on her couch to make room for him. "You'd better lie down here next to me. You should be in the police." Athos said admiringly. He had been too busy working for 2 months, and only now he could find a moment to see his friend. "We couldn't find those things for a year. Young girls were missing, and all of them were either orphans or orphans, and there were a lot of migrants from other towns. Those who had relatives far away or no relatives at all, you know. They hit their spot. There were 4 girls. You should have seen them, Slava. Hungry, beaten, exhausted. Are they even alive? In hospital. They're recuperating, and psychologists are working with them. They're terribly frightened. And these?" He jerked his chin as if pointing at the scoundrels. "What will happen to them?" Athos laughed. "Don't worry about that. They'll get the whole lot. And I don't think they'll get out of there. I've seen them, I still dream about them sometimes. The zone will break them. And," he waved his hand, "tell me better, how is Nyuta?" Slava's face brightened up. He took a beautifully designed beige card envelope from the pocket of his jacket. "She asked me to pass it on." Athos unfolded it and ran his eyes over the text. "An invitation to the wedding? This is not a joke, Slava." Slava smiled calmly and happily. "We'll be waiting for you," he smiled.